Hey YouTube, welcome back. I've got another build here for you. This is the result of the Vision GL weekend races. So the skills were Judgment, Javelin, and Shield Throw, and we ended up choosing Javelin. I've leveled a lot using Holy Trail. I think it's really good for leveling, but I've never actually played it as an endgame build. So this time around I figured, why not? Why not seize the moment and just see how far we can do, how far we can push using Holy Trail Javelin, using Lunge to proc it. We're going to use a two-handed weapon, and we're not going to have a shield, and we're just going to push as far into the arena as possible. So, we hit level 100 in the arena. So first things first, this build is incredibly fast. Just one of the fastest farming builds I've ever played. We also got to wave 360 before we opted to just leave, because we already hit rank 1 for the tournament. And on the hardcore solo ladder, the only person who's ahead of me is me. So I'm gonna take spots 1 and 2 on the hardcore solo ladder, and I'm just gonna wait for one of you to try to dethrone me. So challenge issued. So for this weekend tournament, I don't think my gear was particularly good. We went through a couple iterations here. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to incorporate Judgment in my build or not. I actually intended to play with Judgment from the very beginning. I wanted to like Judgment and Holy Trail at the same time, but I ended up just sticking with Holy Trail because I like the Lunge playstyle so much. And I figured that it would probably work out pretty well in arena to just kite around and lunge in, Volatile Reversal back, and just like never really just melee the enemies, you know what I mean? We tried Judgment with Warpath, we tried Judgment with the mana stuff, we tried Judgment without the mana stuff, and I just not the biggest fan of it. I love Righteous Fire from Path of Exile, so I like that kind of playstyle, but something about having to reset it every, 4 or 5 seconds and the relatively small area of it. It is nice that Judgment's Consecrated Ground, the damage over time, scales exactly the same as Holy Trail does, but I just didn't want to incorporate it in my build. Even using a two-hander, I could have used Judgment as well. Most people who were playing Judgment this weekend used Rebuke, which makes them incredibly tanky. They used a shield, hopefully using Bastion of Honor, and then they used a wand, which means that those people who were playing Judgment weren't speccing Lunge, and they weren't speccing to proc Javelin off of Lunge. So I think I'm like the only person who is trying for this particular playstyle. So what it means is we don't get to use a shield, but it also means we get to use a Titan Heart. So this build was a pleasure to play. I loved blasting through the monoliths and just getting a ton of experience. I didn't want to do any dungeon farming because first of all, I don't really enjoy dungeon farming, and I felt like farming at 250 corruption during a weekend tournament was a great way to try to find some kind of exalted gear, some kind of nice upgrades for the character, while also getting a ton of experience. So we were level 99, and then within the arena itself, we dinged level 100. So that's kind of a recap of what we spent our weekend doing. Let me tell you about this character. Elsewhere on YouTube, I have a video about like level faster using Holy Trail, level faster with a Paladin, whatever. And this is the end game form of that character. Let me show you what we've been doing here. So I guess the first things first, like we have a Titan Heart because if you're not using a shield, if you're using a two-hander, you should probably be using a Titan Heart because Titan Heart's very good, especially if you're in hardcore. So that's the first defining feature here. And the second defining feature is we're using a spear because spear gives us the proc over here, like we said. So let's start with Holy Trail. If you've seen a Holy Trail Javelin build before, a lot of this is going to look very similar. So we're going to grab all of the more damage multipliers that we can along with Holy Trail right here. So once we toss this thing, boop, like this, and then we have this this trail here, and we can have 2 trails out at the same time, which means we have like some pretty good coverage, right? So we can hit those enemies and also hit those enemies, and if we have spell damage leeched health, we're leeching off of those things. Otherwise, as long as we're standing on this, we have a ton of healing effect for ourselves. So with Holy Trail, we're going to grab the Holy Trail node itself, 4 points into the more damage and a point into the adaptive spell damage per healing effect. We have, let's show you how much healing effect we have. We have 820 healing effect. So 820 divided by 5 is maybe 170, 180-ish adaptive damage. So it's like having a staff and a half worth of adaptive damage because of this node. And then, our healing effect is also very good, which means that if we're standing on Holy Trail, we heal. So the whole thing feels great. We have 5 out of 5 points in damage over time here. We have 1 point all the way on the far left. The only reason we're taking this is because it has a more damage multiplier on it. We have all the nodes here, and because I'm using a unique weapon that has +2 to Javelin, I put 1 node in here because there's nothing else for me to take. Plopped our 22nd point into this useless node over here. Next up is Lunge, because we're basically playing a Lunge DPS build. We have our invulnerability while lunging, which feels great in hardcore and in arena. We have these extra cooldown over here, so we can lunge twice. We can bonk this guy, maybe Volatile Reversal, bonk that guy again, and then maybe throw another thing out. And all of a sudden we have 3 Holy Trails, which means we have tons of coverage. So this feels very good up here, getting this extra cooldown for Lunge. Next up, we have some kill threshold, 15% down here, and that about wraps it up. Let's move on to Volatile Reversal. Secretly, this is your single target skill. It is a metric ton of damage. Remember, Volatile Reversal says enemies take increased damage and enemies take increased damage. And also, if you hit them with both of those apply twice. So it looks like 60 plus 80, but if you hit twice, like if you're standing on top of an enemy, you hit with both, the beginning and the end. So it's 160% increased damage taken. I opted not to put this last point in here because I wanted as much movement speed as possible. And then I grabbed 1 little point down here for cooldown recovery speed. Worth noting, very, very often while I'm playing a Sentinel build, I really want sealed affix on my helmet for +1 levels to Volatile Reversal. I just feel like there's so many good things to spec into in Volatile Reversal. I would always like having +1 levels if it's ever possible for me. Next up, let's talk about Holy Aura. Holy Aura is not great. It doesn't really do anything for us, but it gives us a ton of resistance. It gives us endurance, gives us poison res, some healing effect, a little bit of fire penetration, which is only half of our damage, but it still counts because Holy Trail is fire and lightning damage of time. And then some extra attack speed to make up for the fact that we are nerfing our own attack speed by taking this node in Javelin. So Holy Trail is kind of weak, but I think it's the best option that we have. Last thing here is Sigils of Hope. Sigils of Hope is very boring, and I kind of wish it were nerfed or changed or something, but it's strong and it gives us a ton of armor. We have 4 Sigils of Hope, 3 base plus 1 up here, and then 4 times this is 800 flat armor. And you can see that along with our blessings for flat armor and percent armor, we have 58% armor standing around. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. And all of a sudden we're at 73% armor, just over 5,000 armor. This is a low level zone that we're currently standing in. It's level 47 zone. So if I were in a level 100 zone, this would say 64% armor. So that's the number that we're looking at. That does it for our skills. Let's walk through the masteries as well. We are all the way at level 100. So some of our points are, I don't know where to put this. Just toss it in. In fact, the last 3 points into vitality over here, I didn't take until very, very late. So they're kind of fluff. But I grabbed all of the resistance nodes that I could. And then as I was getting gear and balancing my res out, I would take 1 point out here and put 1 point over there. So that's why you see only 5 points in Juggernaut, for example. You can flex that however you like. The most important thing for us in our base mastery, these 5 points for movement skill, cooldown, recovery speed, we're basically a Lunge DPS build. So we need all 5 points into this to get Lunge back off cooldown ASAP. We have no points in Forge Guard. Nothing here is interesting for us. We have 10 points in Void Knight in order to make our gearing as easy as possible. This gives us tons of extra resistance and a little bit of extra health. Let's talk about the main mastery here, our Paladin. You'll see everything's maxed out. There's nothing particularly spicy going on here. It's pretty much the nodes you like and nothing else. So we have some penetration, which affects both the fire and lightning portion of our damage. We have health and healing effect. Remember, healing effect is adaptive damage for us. So this is our base damage. We love this node here. Next up is a bunch of endurance to make my gearing easier. We only have 50% endurance, but it felt pretty good. Next up, healing effect and necrotic res and health. This node is just super high value because it gives us everything we could want, makes our gearing easier. We have healing effect and damage if we've healed ourselves recently. And we're healing ourselves very often by just standing on Javelin, the Holy Trail. And also, if we ever lunge has a tiny piece of healing in it as well. Next up, we have just a bunch of health, as much as we can possibly get. We have the best node in Paladin, which is this health, damage, healing effect, and mana, which is just great for us. And we have 12 out of 12 in movement speed so that we can run away from the spooky monsters. We need this to stay alive in Arena. I would not trim this. We need all the movement speed we can get. We have 1 point here, which is our level 100 point. It is not good. It's like it's not good. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. So when you heal yourself, not damage over time, but if you do like a chunk of healing, like off of Lunge, for example, you technically have a chance to give yourself 10% increased armor and some extra healing effect. It's fine. Don't take this. It doesn't do anything. I wish it were better. I wish this were good. It's like the bare minimum of good. It's like technically, it's fine. Okay, next up, let's talk about gear. If you get to level 100, you can take that note and feel real happy about it. What do we do with our gear? So when you're playing a Paladin, you have all the resistances and life and endurance and crit avoid. You have all of your things already taken care of. So what do you use your suffixes for? You use them for health and you use them for armor. So we have exalted health, we have armor, we have some exalted health here. The void res is garbage, but whatever. We have as much health, as much armor, as much health, as much armor, and some health and some extra health over here. Those are that's where our 4,000 life is coming from. The other things for our pieces of jewelry, wherever we can get healing effect and elemental damage over time, you'll see that we have both of those. So amulet is both. We'd like to have both of those on our ring as well. I technically have some mana regeneration, bringing us from 8 mana up to 10 mana. It's fine. I guess it felt good, but my mana was trivial the entire time because Volatile Reversal always restores your mana, and you're very often lunging forward and then Volatile Reversal immediately after that. Atrophy is a very, very easy item to farm up. And it's actually one of the nice reasons to play a damage over time build during one of these 4-day weekend tournaments. Because not only is Atrophy a very common drop from Raye in the Black Sun monolith, but also it drops fairly commonly with LP as well. So if you can get 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of these with LP, you can try to slap something useful on them. I would have liked to have Hybrid Life, but Strength gives me % armor, and it also gives me 4% increased damage per point. So it's technically fine. I stopped farming after I got something that was reasonable like this. For a relic, we really want to use a solar commandment base as much as possible. It has the fire damage and healing effect. Remember, healing effect is our it's our adaptive damage for the build. And then LE damage, healing effect, LE damage, healing effect, as much as you can get. For the idols, one of the last things we'll talk about here, again, we have like healing. It would be fine to drop these healing effect idols if I had a bunch of hybrid life idols. Like if I had 3 of these, for example, I would drop this resistance thing, and I would drop, the worst one of these. I would drop this, and I would go 1, 2, 3. I would just load up with as many hybrid life idols as I could get. But the ones that I have here, we have block effect doesn't do anything. We could use a Bastion, but we're not because we won't use Lunge. The healing effect is pretty good because, it makes us safe and it gives us our adaptive damage. So I would use as many health idols as I could get. In hardcore, those things feel really, really good to slap into your build. The actual last thing that we're talking about here is our blessings. One of the things that you can do as a Paladin, because, you have Holy Aura, you have Crit Avoid built into your mastery if you need it. You have all these resistances built into your mastery if you need it. Your base types have Crit Avoid on it. Your Bone Amulet has resistances on it. Because you already have so many of those important suffixes for your build, what you can do is just take armor. So my level 90 monoliths, instead of getting Fire Shred or something, listen, I don't hit enemies very often. I hit very, very seldomly. So Fire Shred doesn't really help me. % increased fire damage only affects half of my damage because Holy Trail is split into fire and lightning. So really, I'm pretty happy to have % armor from Hayrod, and then from Spirits of Fire, we just have as much flat armor as we can get, which again gives us just over 5,000 armor here without using a shield or anything. So this is a excellent layer of defense for us. The rest of this, just a bunch of fluff for the most part, but I do want to call out spell damage leeches health. Normally in a holy, or I guess in a judgment or a javelin build, you might see someone only rely on the healing from Holy Trail itself, but it's kind of annoying. What if you need to throw a javelin and then run away from the enemy? You only have healing if you're standing exactly on this thing. What I can show you is my health is pretty low right now, but if I just tag this boss with a javelin, you'll see that the leech kicks in pretty quickly. And if I have, 1, 2, 3 holy trails going at the same time, I have a lot of leech that's available to me because I have spell damage leeched as health. That about does it for the character. I want you to level with Holy Trail because it feels so damn good to level with. And you know what? If you've never played the end game version of it, I haven't either until just now, but it feels so good to level with this thing. all the way into level 100. I've got some goodies here. We didn't kill ourselves in the arena. We just left after 360 waves because we are the number 2 and we're also the number 1 and we won this weekend tournament. So that feels very good. I've got a bunch of goodies here. I've got my Bastion. I've got a couple 3LP belts, 3LP Grimoire, 3LP Laragas, and we're just going to bring over all these goodies into hardcore and maybe have some fun. It's a little embarrassing that I have 3 million gold because I actually forgot to do my Lightless Arbor and spend all my gold. But I guess if you're ever curious about how much gold you could get over a 3-day tournament for the weekend, 3 million. There, that's the answer for you. So as always, if you have any questions, you can always drop by on Twitch, twitch.tv/payofthepig, where I stream almost every day, not on Wednesdays. Or you can always leave questions or comments in the comment section of this YouTube video here. So as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.